I'd like to call to order the Doylestown Borough Council meeting for Monday, June 17th. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm just about to see the American flag from here.
Do we have any special presentations?
No.
No, okay. Good. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our May 20th council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none. I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Mayor, do you have anything for us tonight?
Yes, I have a report this evening, and actually this evening it is more of a statement. Around 2 a.m. on Thursday, June 13th, both the Pride flag and the American flag were cut down at the Civil War Monument. The Pride flag was stolen and the American flag was left in the street. It was the eve of Flag Day and 2 days before Juneteenth and the beginning of Doylestown's Pride Week festivities. This was just not an act of violence, but a hate-fueled act that goes against our values of equality, acceptance, and celebrity of diversity. The theft of the Pride flag and the defamation of the American flag were a direct assault on the LGBTQ community, and it was an assault on our Borough Council staff and county commissioners. It was an assault on our residents who support diversity and equity, our cultural institutions who work to deepen our understanding of diversity, our religious institutions. It was an assault on our organizations whose ethos wraps around inclusion, our veterans and those who serve our country, and every resident who believes in the foundations of our democracy and justice for all. Tonight, we acknowledge the harm and hurt the LGBTQ community and larger community experienced in the wake of Thursday morning. But the disappointment, fear, and outrage cannot be swept away by a simple nod of an acknowledgement. If we are to ensure the LGBTQ community and everyone feels valued and safe, our commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion must be vigorous. We need to act every day. A quick web search revealed to me that Pride and American flag thefts and desecrations are occurring across the United States. It made me reflect upon the realization that things I have taken for granted have changed and gone. A natural respect for one another, civility. We need to work on bringing those values back. The intolerance that prompted this act has no place in our community, not during Pride Month, during Juneteenth celebrations, or Flag Day, not ever. And then as an addendum, I would just like to add that by 8:30 a.m. on Thursday morning, the American and Pride flags were flying again. Doylestown fought back. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have anything else?
No.
Okay. Public safety, Mr. Frederick, what do you have for us tonight?
Yes, Mr. President, we have consideration of ordinance number 2024-3, creating a no parking restriction on Wood Street. Attached, please find ordinance number 2024-3, which extends the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. resident-only parking restriction on both sides of Wood Street between Franklin and Decatur to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The change was requested by Wood Street residents and recommended by the Public Safety Committee, and Council approved the advertising of the ordinance at their May 20th, 2024 meeting. The ordinance has been properly advertised. The Public Safety Committee recommends adoption of ordinance number 2024-3. If Council wishes to follow the recommendation, it can do so by motion, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Brown. Do we have any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Seeing none or hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, Mr. President, we have authorization to draft and advertise ordinance, handicap parking at 443 Maple Avenue. Council Public Safety Committee met on June 12, 2024, to consider a request from the residents of 443 Maple Avenue for the creation of a handicap space for their primary use. A resident of 443 Maple Avenue has a handicap parking placard. As a result, Public Safety Committee is recommending the council authorize the drafting and advertising of an ordinance creating the handicap space at 443 Maple Avenue. If council wishes to follow the recommendation, it can do so by motion, and I so move.
Second.
We had a second by Amy. Any questions or comments from any members of council?
Mr. President, I just have a quick question. If the residents at 443 move out of that property, that parking space is going to remain, is that correct, as a handicap space, or it will not?
It would need to be repealed, and
It
we
would-
generally do,
Okay,
and then remove it.
all right.
And I would also add that since it's on a public street, excuse me, that would not be for the exclusive use of the resident of that. Anybody with a placard could park in that spot, just for clarification.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The last we have is the Doylestown Fire Company report. You all have that in your packet. And that is the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. Public Works and Administration, Mr. Brown, do you have anything for us tonight?
We did not meet. However, I do want to give kudos to the Public Works team, as usual, for their great work around the Memorial Day Parade, and also for the quick work that they did to get the flags flying last week, as the mayor's already noted. And I'll hand it over to Mr. Ellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. The department's been busy with road repairs. You probably noticed we've been everywhere patching and trying to recover from the last winter. We were working on West Street today, and we'll be working actually on Linden tomorrow for the next 2 days, actually. Doing a bunch of water repairs. For every water repair in the street, that leaves behind a temporary patch that we have to go back and permanently restore. So we have a pretty long list of those. We're actually almost done working through those lists, including one tricky one on Swamp Road that required all hands on deck with flagging duties and everything else. As you all know, we planted a bunch of beautiful large trees in town in various locations, including Burpee Park and Maplewood. We've been doing our regular flower watering. Flowers look exceptionally good this year. And kudos to Dave Berger and my assistant Lisa Borghi, who were instrumental in the flower selection this year, along with the students at Del Val, so that I think this year's flowers look good. And I just want to shout out to Tim Brennan, our state representative, because he has gotten a commitment from PennDOT to repave State Street. We don't know when that's going to happen. Huntsman and I have been working with PennDOT, or at odds with PennDOT, for years over that condition of that road. I'm frustrated because people think it's a borough road. It's not. So again, props to Representative Brennan for working hard on this issue with PennDOT, this and other issues. He really has been working very hard at this. Is the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellinger. That's it for Public Works, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Community and Government Affairs, Mr. Bell, you have anything for us tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item for council. This is related to the Youth Leadership Recognition Program. The Community and Governmental Affairs Committee reviewed the nominations for the 2024 Doylestown Borough Youth Recognition Program at its June meeting. After discussion, the committee is recommending that the recognition be awarded to Riley Smith. The recipient will receive the award at the July council meeting. And if council wishes to follow the recommendations of the committee, it can do so by motion, and I so move.
Second.
We have a second by Jen, I think? Liz, I'm sorry. My right ear's not working too well.
That's okay.
Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none, any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And just one footnote to that is that we received many more applications this year than last year, and some of that is undoubtedly due to the efforts of our social media coordinator, Caitlin Hernandez. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Zoning and Planning, Ms. Jarrett.
We, of course, did meet this week. First on the agenda for the Zoning and Planning Committee is the authorization to advertise a zoning amendment concerning residential conversions and changes to non-conforming uses. The existing zoning ordinance permits the conversion of single-family detached dwellings to twins, duplex buildings, and multifamily low-rise buildings, and the conversion of twins and duplex buildings to multifamily low-rise buildings. This is currently permitted either outright or by special exception in all zoning districts except for RC, RC1, and FC. Special exceptions have a much lower legal threshold for their granting compared to variances. In the borough's hot residential housing market, residential conversions create the potential for overcrowding and over-intensification of properties. Additionally, an existing provision permits non-conforming uses to change to any other non-conforming use by special exception, regardless of the underlying zoning. These unplanned changes can undermine the borough's land use planning. This provision has been used in the past to permit the conversion of existing non-conforming uses into much more intense uses, such as multifamily low-rise apartments, where that use is otherwise not permitted. Similarly, it could be used to convert a non-conforming commercial use to a restaurant in a residential zoning district. This creates a threat to the integrity of the underlying zoning scheme in light of the borough's popularity and associated real estate development pressure. Attached, please find an ordinance eliminating use 5, the conversions, and modifying the ordinance language to require a variance for changing a non-conforming use to a different non-conforming use. Both the Bucks County Planning Commission and the Borough Planning Commission have reviewed the proposed ordinance and recommended the adoption. The Zoning and Planning Committee is recommending that council authorize the advertisement of the attached ordinance, and if council is in agreement, it may do so by motion, and I so move.
Second.
We had a second by Mr., thank you. Mr. Kinney, excuse me. Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none, any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We also have the Zoning Hearing Board report, but I will pass that over to Ms. Highland to decipher for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jarrett. The Zoning Hearing Board will be meeting this Thursday to hear 3 applications. First on their agenda is 40 South Clinton Street. The applicant is requesting dimensional relief to enable them to enclose an existing rear porch. Second is 2 East Hill Drive. The applicant is requesting dimensional relief to allow them to build closer to East Hill Drive. It's a corner property and it's got 2 front yards. And finally, 3 Atkinson, which is in the Planned Industrial Zoning District. The applicant is requesting relief to enable them to construct a single-family dwelling.
Thank you, Ms. Highland. The Zoning Hearing Board during our meeting did believe that we should be sending the solicitor to represent the borough's interest for the 3 Atkinson Drive application. So I will make a motion to do so.
Second.
We have a motion. We had a couple of seconds in there. I think it was Dennis.
Mine came from your good ear.
Switch, that's it. Everybody's a wise guy, including myself. Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none, any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And sorry, I have to get back to my screen. Right. And next up, we have the HARB recommendations. A lot of sign applications this month. At its regular monthly meeting, the Borough of Doylestown's Historic and Architectural Review Board recommended the following. For sign applications, we have 53 West State Street for a sign. The HARB recommended that the application be approved for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and presented. 41 East State Street, also a sign. HARB recommended that the application be approved for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and presented. 38 East State Street for a sign. The HARB recommended that the application be approved for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted with the following condition. If the sign requires modification for compliance with the Real Estate Commission requirements, additional text and design shall remain consistent with what was submitted. 14 East Court Street, also for a sign. The HARB recommended that the application be approved for a certificate of appropriateness as submitted and presented. Last, we have a building application for 291 West Court Street for exterior renovations. The HARB recommended that the application be approved for a certificate of appropriateness as amended with the following conditions. The application is amended to include a new roof in either stone gate gray or gatehouse slate from Certainteed Grand Manor or shall match the product used at 238 West Court Street. The gutters and downspouts will remain as built-in and aluminum, and the enclosed rear porches will be resided in smooth hardy plank in cobblestone color with 6-inch exposures. The Zoning and Planning Committee recommends that council approve the applications in accordance with the HARB's recommendation, and if the council wishes to follow the committee's recommendation, it may do so by motion, and I so move.
Joe?
He just seconded
Joe seconded, right?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And in addition to code enforcement and the building inspection reports, which are in the packet, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Jarrett. Environment and Rec, Ms. Wyckoff, do you have anything?
Yes, two things, please. First, the DVRPC Regional Benchmarking Pilot Program. The Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission approached Doylestown Borough staff in April of this year for participation in their Regional Benchmarking Pilot Program funded by the U.S. DOE and PA-DEP. Energy benchmarking is the process of measuring a building's energy usage and comparing it to similar buildings. The DVRPC's pilot program involves two components. First, benchmarking borough-owned buildings, and then participating in development of a benchmarking program or ordinance for large commercial buildings. For reference, the City of Philadelphia's benchmarking requirements apply to buildings larger than 50,000 square feet. Whether this program will include development of a benchmarking ordinance or development of a voluntary program is under review by the DVRPC's legal counsel, whose opinion will be made available for the borough's consideration. In the meantime, interested municipalities are being asked to begin the first phase, municipal benchmarking. Participation in municipal benchmarking does not obligate the borough to participate in future phases of the program. The DVRPC's fact sheet is in the packet. The Environment and Recreation Committee recommends participation in this first phase of the program. If the council is in agreement, staff may be authorized by motion, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Lavrone. Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
One more thing, for 40 years, Park and Recreation Month has been celebrated in July in recognition of the importance of parks and their role in vibrant communities. In our borough parks, you'll find people enjoying team sports and children's shows, fishing, playing chess, riding bikes, and having picnics. Our parks encourage us to play, to relax, to appreciate nature, and to celebrate and connect. As such, they are key spaces for our community's health and well-being. We are fortunate to have 11 parks in the borough, which add up to about 80 acres of public space. Anyone who maintains a yard knows that 80 acres is a lot to take care of. I'd like to recognize Phil Ellinger, Dave Berger, and the Public Works staff members for their care and maintenance of our parks, as well as Caitlin Hernandez for boosting our recreation programs and activities, and James Lannon and the Park and Recreation Board members for their advisory work. I hope you all will visit and enjoy all 11 borough parks in July and throughout the year. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Wyckoff. Water utility, Mr. Lavrone, do you have anything for us tonight?
Yes, Mr. President. We did not meet in June, but The chief operator, Jeremy Matoso, provided me with two bits of information I'd like to share with with council and the public. The monthly operation report, which is nothing out of the ordinary, and I have that if anybody would like to take a look at that. And then the other thing is, he gave me an update on the Maplewood Tank project, and I'll just read a couple sentences that he provided for me here. Work is moving along at a steady pace, and the water department is very happy with the progress. The contractor should be done sandblasting by June 21st. Then the painting will begin, which should last approximately 2 weeks. After the painting is complete, the air mixer will be installed and the tank will be put back in service. We anticipate the project being wrapped up in mid to late July. So unless staff, specifically Phil or John, have anything to add to that, that would be the end of my report.
Nothing to add. It's going very well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lerone. Finance Pension, Ms. Popkin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Pension did meet this month. We talked about the non-uniform pension plan compliance audit, and we reviewed that, the Fannie Chapman Pool Code of Conduct, and the Memorial Day Parade for the fire police. We don't have any actions on those, but I do have a finance report that's included in the packet, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Brinker.
Thank you, Ms. Popkin. Everyone was given a copy of the finance report for this month. The total for all funds of prepaid bills, accounts payable for this month, and payroll is $1,053,910.44.
Thank you, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Kinney, I think it was. It was. Yep. Any questions or comments from any members of council? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from any members of the public? Hearing none, I'd like to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's the end of my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Popkin. Personnel Committee did not meet this month. I have no report. Professionals reports. Mr. Doherty, do you have anything for us tonight?
Thank you. I have nothing to report tonight.
Solicitors report. Andrew, you have anything for us?
No report this evening.
Okay. Chief Knott, you have anything for us on the police?
Our report's in the package.
Okay, thank you. I do not have a president's report tonight. Do we have any items of old business?
Mr. President, I have just one thing. Just a reminder that we will be having our next preparedness seminar on June 24th at 6:30 right here. We'll be discussing meeting and communication plans in the case of disaster. And this gets a follow-up on our May session where we had 22 people come and some great input. And we already have 13 signed up for this. You can go on the borough website and sign up there. And also thanks to Caitlin again for her help getting the word out on these.
That it? Thank you. Any items of new business? Hearing none. Open public comment. John, you have the list?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First person signed up for open public comment is Brian Beckno, East Ashland Street. Just a reminder, we do have a 2-minute limit on public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Welcome.
President O'Brien, Mayor West, thank you for the opportunity to talk to all of you. My name is Brian Beckno, and I've been a resident at 147 East Ashland Street since my parents bought the property in 1971. And I grew up when the prison was still open. And so I've seen a lot of changes that have occurred specific to East Ashland Street, which used to be a very quiet street and a street that was very undesirable because of the presence of the prison. But I'm coming to you, Mr. President and Chief, and to all of you, because on Tuesday last week, due to all of the traffic that has been pushed to East Ashland Street with the connector to 202, Marie, my neighbor, was hit while crossing the street right there by Burpee Park. And she was very seriously injured. She's still in Abington Hospital. Her leg was peeled back up to her ear. And Just today, as I was preparing to get ready to come over here, someone in another Ford Explorer comes racing through that same intersection where the indicators and warnings have already happened, with Marie being run over on Tuesday last week. So I'm coming as a concerned citizen that has skin in the game, that lives on this street, that has been here since 1971 for 53 years. That's how old I am. And we need to do something about it. The indicators and warnings are there, so I don't want to wait any longer and wait till a child or someone else has a burpee or something else happens. Because I would argue that the authorities vested in all of you as the Borough Town Council, that there's liabilities you all assume too when there's no action that occurs. And I know there'll be other residents that want to say the same. The second item concerns some new construction that's also on the street that involves the displacement and a rupturing of the water table that has occurred due to that new construction. Millions and millions of gallons have been moved from underground because of the penetration of the foundation had to be dug so deep to meet the requirements of the building of the house, so it wouldn't, bust the ordinance for height. And so it's not 5 gallons or a gallon every 5 minutes. It's not a gallon every 1 minute. In the winter, when there were 3 pumps going, it was 1 gallon every 5 seconds. Was being pumped and discharged into the street down into the storm drain. And now all of that is being put underground into the storm drain, so it's out of sight, out of mind. And that's water that probably fills wells, that goes downstream. And again, for 53 years, it hasn't been an issue. And East Ashland Street and our yards are where the water flows from the courthouse all the way down as it makes its way down into down behind the golf course and where all the water flows. So it's not been a new problem. But the fact that the earth below has been ruptured and water just will not stop pouring in because of the water table, I would ask the council to also take a look at that as well. Thank you very much for your time. And Noni West, thank you, Mayor, for your opening comments. Thank you.
Okay, we'll stick with East Ashland Street. Doreen Stratton.
First of all, I'm really feel so bad what happened with our American flag and the pride flag. It's unfortunate to realize that we have some really ignorantly sick people in our community. They did come into our own yard, pulled out one of our little pride flags in one of our garden plants, but this is unconscionable. I too want to talk about the accident that happened to Marie. I was in my office upstairs, and that sound when her body was hit, I can't unhear it. When I looked out the window, I heard it, and I said, oh my, here comes another thumper bumper. And I looked out the window, and she was laying in the street, and her one leg was really bad. Doylestown, our 4-way stop signs are really good. They are needed because we are now experiencing so much foot traffic. But some of these people that fly down Ashland Street, they don't stop and they go up the hill. I think maybe you really need to consider a couple speed bumps between Pine Street and Church Street. I don't know if you can also consider the other way, because they come flying down from 202 as well. Then, of course, we have those other weird people who decide to do a full turn going around in order to go back another way. We're at the corner of Ashland and Church. So I really hope that you do something about this. Marie is one of our favorite. We have a neighborhood of Ashland, Pine, and Church and elsewhere of people who are really concerned about this. So please consider look at the fact that we probably need some speed bumps there. Thank you.
I'm going to stick with East Ashland Street at this point. Karen Reed, East Ashland Street.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Karen Reed. I've lived on East Ashland Street since 2008. One thing that was been left out from the Maria story was that she was in the crosswalk when she was hit. And we're obviously here in support of Maria and support of change for safety here in town. Most all of us love town for many reasons, and one is that we can walk. And lots of us walk all the time. And this issue is not just an East Ashland issue. I see it all over town, running stop signs, speeding, the gliding stop, total disregard for walkers. And we have so much more traffic in town. I don't know if anyone's noticed since the pandemic, we've become a destination and there's just a lot of traffic and congestion. And we're building apartment buildings and Target's coming and maybe a hotel. So there's more congestion coming. And my plea to the borough is, what's the plan? We need a plan to keep walkers safe. We don't want to kill the golden goose that we all love. We love to walk. And I don't want anyone to be hit anywhere, let alone the way Maria was hit. She has a long road back. And it's terrible. She was just crossing the street in the crosswalk. And then the second issue is the new construction. Neighbors are not, there are 4 neighbors that are directly downwind from the water being pumped out. They have been in contact with the builder. Neighbors across the street have no idea. Neighbors on the other parts of the street, no information. I don't understand how a builder can pierce the water table and there's no consequences. Also, if all that water is going to be shifting down by the golf course, other neighbors are impacted. I just don't understand how that happened. We all know it's a wet area. We've all built on that and done expansion, a lot of us on that street, and this hasn't been an issue. And the fact that if the borough's involved, nobody knows. It's a big black box. But thank you for your time and your service.
Okay. Stephen McConnell, Old Dublin Pike.
Let me cede my time. You've addressed the issue, asked and answered.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. McConnell. All right, moving on. Richard Thames, 443 Maple.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor West for her statement. I really appreciate it, and I represent several minority groups. One of them is I'm an immigrant. Number 2, I'm the child of Holocaust survivors. Number 3, I'm an Army veteran. Number 4, in the worst minority group, I am a Republican, as is my wife. Last week, my wife was walking with another borough resident who's not a Republican when a member of this council yelled out hate speech to them in violation of Mayor West's statement, which I support, and said, oh, the Nazis are gathering, and waved a Biden banner at him. I don't mind the Biden banner. I choose not to support the man. But I do mind the hate speech, and that is a flagrant violation of the borough and a statement of that man violating that code, and it's horrible. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Next is Steve Sullivan, 73 Harvey Avenue.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just wanted to bring up some issue about the proposed hotel/wedding venue that's going to be in the site of the old Borough Hall. I know that things are moving forward, and there's a couple of questions I would hope that the Borough Council would be able to ask as this process goes forward. One of them would be to find out how the owner would prepare to comply with the noise ordinance if there is a wedding or something like that, which they plan to do because this is a wedding venue. It's called a hotel, but we all know it's a wedding venue, expecting 150 to 200 plus people. How would they expect to keep the noise to 60 decibels at their border, at their property line, which, is very, very difficult to do when there's a band playing or a DJ playing. If you'll indulge me for a second. This is the sound from my bedroom when Villa Capri had a band playing on June 1st at 10:30 p.m. My phone volume is at 50% right now. And this is what it sounded like in my bedroom. So I'm wondering how loud will it be when there's a wedding of 200 people going on and there's a band playing that has to be loud enough for them or a DJ loud enough for them. So I really would hope that someone would ask them for a plan as to how they expect to comply with that noise ordinance. Because it's going to be, I wonder how many Google reviews that say my wedding got shut down by the police before no one books a wedding there anymore. Because that is what will happen. The other thing would be the parking. I hear that the owner could have underground parking with lifts to comply with the parking space variance that he did not get. And I'm wondering, where will the lineup for valet be for that? Because that means all the parking will be valet now. And are they gonna line up on Court Street all the way to Main Street? Are they gonna line up down Hamilton some way? It's gonna be an enormous disruption. So that would be a problem. Thank you for your time.
Okay, sure I can read this properly. Dave Owings? 121 Harvey Avenue.
Yeah, I'm on Harvey Avenue as well, and we have grave concerns about what this hotel event space is going to do. I know we've gone over and over this, but in view of some of the comments tonight about safety, I can't see how having this at the top of a one-way street and having residents coming from New Jersey and other places looking for this hotel that they're going to spend their night or go to this event is a good idea. I just like everybody to think about that and take it into consideration. Thank you very much.
Okay. Finally, we have Anne Marie Owings, 121 Harvey Avenue.
I would like to defer my time to my neighbor, Leslie Richards, if possible.
Usually,
We don't do that.
we don't normally permit deferring in time, but we could sign in right now.
Yeah, she got here after the sign-in period.
The meeting rules stipulate that the time can't be seated.
You can't, but you can have, if you wish, you can sign in now.
Okay.
Oh.
Can I sign in?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Council.
I'll make my short speech.
Lead us.
I live at 121 Harvey Avenue, and I thank you. I did email all of the council members about our concern about this event space that is possibly going to happen at the top of our street. We're very concerned about the safety of this space, the size of it, considering we are a residential community, and I hope the council will take that into account when you discuss this further. Thank you.
Thank you very much for making that exception. I appreciate it. I wanted to let Borough Council know that we met with the developer at 57 West Court Street the Wednesday after Memorial Day. He wanted to present to us plans that he could enact by rights without having to apply for variances should his height variance be declined on appeal. And he's proposing underground parking, so the parking issue will not be something that limits scope. The fact that he was denied a parking variance will not impact the scope of the project. If he does it without lifts, he's looking at an event venue that can support, or a total occupancy venue that can support 305 people. If he does it with lifts, it's 385 people. The parking with or without complying with the existing code is not sufficient for the scale of the infrastructure in that neighborhood. We really don't want, and I send my apologies and condolences for your neighbor. It's the first I've heard of it. we don't want a similar conversation with you at some point in the future as a result of the kind of congestion that gets created by this. We have told the builder that we support a hotel. Contrary to some people's opinion, we have no issue with a hotel. We understand that that's of value to the borough. We would request a small restaurant, 40 seats, something that cannot become excessive, and no event space. And we would be willing to discuss and drop the appeal that is currently in front of the Court of Common Pleas. But we are very concerned about the scale, the density of population that he's proposing for that space, and the very small side streets of Wood, Hamilton, Harvey. And we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
And last, we have Amy Wicker, 300 West Ashland Street and 53 and 55 Hamilton Street.
North Hamilton, yeah, I own those properties, and my one property butts up right next to the fence. It's 6 feet from where the parking lot will be. And the zoning board granted variance on buffers. I would think that now would be the time to put up buffers between my property and the parking lot. I'm very frightened that something might happen. If they do the wedding venue and drunks come out, boom, right into the house where my computer is, explosion, there's safety concerns. I already had gas fumes come into my property. I went over and addressed it with the tenant, but I would hate anything to happen to my tenants. So I'm just not sure why zoning said, you know, no buffers. It's like, now is the time to bring the property up to code for safety reasons. And I agree with everything Leslie had said about safety, and what happened on East Ashland is terrible. And I could just see with the 300 venue, there's just going to be people probably getting run over all over the place, not to be a drama queen, but there is a safety issue with the size of the building. And I hope you guys respectively reconsider anything, you know, when discussing it, because it is a safety issue. Thank you.
Just 2 updates subsequent to public comment. The East Ashland Street accident is under investigation. We're awaiting the police report. We actually have some fairly good video evidence of that gives us, we think, a very good idea of what happened. We've commissioned a new traffic study of both of the adjacent blocks. We've done them from time to time over the years, and that's standard, but we expect to have that traffic study done in time for the next public safety meeting. We've also commissioned an accident history study and a history of stop sign enforcement in the area. So at the next public safety committee meeting, which will be the first Wednesday in July 3rd, I think.
July 3rd, yeah.
I think we've moved, I think that's already been moved. Double check the date there, but we will be discussing East Ashland Street and the data that we have. So that will be on that agenda. Let me just confirm the date for you all.
Moved on.
On the 3rd.
July 3rd.
Yeah, we are still scheduled for the 3rd. July 3rd at 6 p.m. That will be on the agenda here. Secondly, with regard to the 57 West Court Street, obviously we're all aware of the zoning hearing board decision, and we have been informed, obviously, that Ms. Richardson and some residents have appealed that. We have gotten notice of that. We have no other formal notice of any action on behalf of the applicant, of the proposed developer with regard to the decision, and Borough Council has not yet received any kind of formal or even informal follow-up application. So obviously, as you do, we anticipate what might be the next shoe to drop on this, but right now we do not have any kind of formal application in front of us. Should we receive a formal application, we'll review it quite rigorously and scrutinize it quite closely with regard to zoning and some of the issues and concerns you've brought up tonight. And that's really all we have with regard to that at the present time. So like you, we're waiting to see what develops next.
I think that concludes the open public comment. We will have an executive session tonight. I'm not sure we'll have any action coming out of it, John.
Don't anticipate any action. We'll be discussing the matter of potential litigation.
And so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second from Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right.